What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
Guys, today we are recapping the UFC 312 main event. Dricus Du Plessis and still defending his belt and beating Sean Strickland resoundingly this time. There was no controversy in this one. First, we're going to talk about what Dricus did right, because in my opinion, this was the best Dricus Du Plessis we've seen. And then we're going to get into some of the things that Sean Strickland maybe could improve on and that he didn't do that we were kind of expecting out of him. So, Nick, I think the first place to start is what Dricus did well, because we have to give the champion his due. He had a very good performance last night. And Dricus, he's just kind of the bastion of unorthodox MMA fighting right now. The guy's awkward. He fights in a way that doesn't look like it would be all that effective, but you cannot argue results in this game. And he's got the results. He's winning every fight, and he's doing it in decisive fashion right now.
Yeah, Dricus is incredible. And, you know, he's only had 7 or 8 fights in the UFC, won them all, but everybody was coming into the comment sections afterwards like, this guy looks like he has no idea what he's doing. I was on that train too. But after last night, I believe that there's a true method to his madness, and he is a unique, unorthodox fighter that is totally in his own world when it comes to his techniques and his ability to win fights. I really love all the different tools he showed us offensively. And when I say offensively, he basically doesn't show defense. You know that old saying, the best defense is good offense?
Yep.
That's Dricus.
Yeah.
Dricus, and after the first 2 rounds, I'm like, okay, he's going to be huffing and puffing after this much volume. No, by the time the championship rounds are there, he's still just as fresh and moving around. It even showed in the post-fight speech when he's just going on and on and on and on. And you're like, most dudes need to catch their breath, and he's full of wind. He's able to cut a promo. So
yeah.
Dricus Du Plessis did so much well. On the technical side of things, the dynamic arsenal of kicks that he was throwing, that everybody saw the question mark head kick. It landed 5 or 6 times. And to do that on a guy like Sean Strickland that's so good at picking up on your tells and your moves and blocking shots. I mean, Sean Strickland is known for his defense. To land that shot over and over again, and the setups he was using were brilliant. There was one in particular I was looking for, and I really wanted to see it happen. He was using that jumping lead hook. It was very awkward. You don't see many people do it, but he was finding some success. And that was actually causing Sean Strickland to move over to the power side where that heavy kick was coming from. I thought for sure he was setting up that big jumping overhand right into the question mark kick. And with the momentum of Sean moving, even though he's a durable fighter, I thought that could have been the one to get him out of there. That combination didn't actually work out perfectly for him, but the kicks that he was showing, the kicks to the leg, all the kicks to the body, he even started doing like a question mark, but then decided where it would go while it was in the air, right? He'd put it up and he'd be like, oh, the head's covered, so let's just attack the body. Oh, you know, he's kind of shelled up pretty well, let's just send it to the legs. So I thought the variety he was showing Sean Strickland, not just with his hands, but with his feet, were major differences in what he did in the first fight versus the second fight. Another thing he did that was so impressive to me was the elbows. And, you know, he does find himself in these spinning situations a lot. A couple of times he does a spin move and doesn't put any attacks on it, which is
he just kind of spins in the middle of the cage.
Right, which is like the cardinal sin. There, you know, my coach, Crew Bob, also, he's sold shirt that says, no spinning SHIT, right? Because they don't want you spinning, you're going to give your back. Dricus is like, no, I'm going to throw it, but I'm not going to put any attacks on it. Very interesting, but it did pay off for him. A couple of those elbows were really nice, and he was able to really frustrate Sean in the inside game. Sean had no answers in the clinch, and Dricus, you know, with his power and his body and his durability, he was able to just get out of any sort of negative or bad position in the clinch or in the inside fighting range with Sean, which just shows his level of strength and power. I feel like Sean Strickland's not a weak 185er, but Dricus is probably the strongest 185er we have on the entire roster. And then a couple other things I wanted to talk about regarding what he did well in this fight were, one thing that stuck out to me was the unpredictable striking patterns. So he showed us about 12, maybe 15 different types of strikes. And when I say that, I mean, obviously everybody can only throw a 1, 2, or 3 or 4, some kicks this way and that way. But like I said, the jumping lead hook, that was bizarre. Some of the attacks to the body were weird. He doesn't really show a lot of feints. He throws attacks and then puts other things behind it, and that's how he finds his success. So it wasn't really the feints, but it was just the unpredictability of what he's going to throw. You don't know which direction he's going to go, if he's going to the head, if he's going to the body, if he's going to the legs. but it's certainly confusing for guys with really good defense like Sean Strickland, who can really pick apart almost anybody in the UFC. But to see a guy like Dricus go out there who fights in an unorthodox way, but still does throw the meat and potatoes just in his own way and with his own cadence, it's very interesting, because I have a feeling not just Sean Strickland's going to be dealing with this issue, but everybody in the middleweight division. Who are you going to find in your sparring room, in your practice room, to mirror what Dricus is doing? Because I don't think anybody else in the world moves like him. We always talk about the Michael Venom Pages are hard to predict, and while that is true, but you can find a Taekwondo guy that moves like Michael Venom Page. I don't know if you can find a guy that moves like Dricus, because what he does is so unique. So I say all that to say I'm blown away with how much improvement Dricus has made in his short UFC career. The dude is the best in the world at 185, and I can't wait to see what's next for him. I hope we get, the Nasruddin Imavovs and some of these new faces in there, because 185 has been the same for so long. It's cool to see this new guy. He's given the utmost respect to all the challengers, but he's also cutting promos. He fights really good. He loves to finish fights. So everything about Dricus is a home run. I can't wait to see what he does moving forward as the champ, now that people have totally answered all the doubt that he wasn't the true champ, that maybe Strickland got robbed or anything like that. Dricus is absolutely the champ.
Yeah, it was really decisive. And talking about people that can mimic a fighter, Dricus probably is one of the most difficult fighters, if not the most difficult fighter to mimic, because there's such an unorthodox nature in the way that he strikes.
Without a doubt.
Maybe his next opponent, probably Hamzat, and we'll get into that in a later video, needs to consult Justin Buckles to give you a way back example. So apparently, and I've never seen the footage of it, but supposedly Justin could mimic Dominic Cruz like nobody else, because Dominic was one of those guys that fought with the way he would slip down, and his cadence and all was very bizarre.
And Team Alpha Male had like 4 or 5 attempts at Dominic Cruz.
At Dominic,
right?
Lost all of them until Justin figured out, after losing to him so many times, exactly how to mimic him. And apparently that was a big part in Cody Garbrandt's resounding defeat way back in the day.
Final form Cody Garbrandt. That was really the best performance he'd ever had.
And then it was a bit downhill from there, but that is not the point of this video. Right. So Dricus Du Plessis, 3 things he did really well that I want to touch on. 2 of them were kick related. Well, they basically were all kick related. And the first one is that he attacked the whole body, right? I think it was after the 3rd or 4th round, they put a statistic up on the screen, and he had just as many head strikes as he did leg kicks, leg strikes, and then the body attacks were somewhere lagging behind, but not that far behind.
Right.
And then you look at Sean. Sean is a headhunter, right? Sean's boxing's really good, and he likes to punch your face with his boxing. That's kind of what he does, aside from throwing those push kicks, which he didn't do a whole lot of last night. But the 2 kicks in particular that Dricus landed that I think really were the game changer, one being that low calf kick. He threw it really hard. You see a lot of people throw a calf kick just to kind of set up a shot to the head or just kind of make you think. Dricus was throwing that calf kick really hard. It was at full clip, and they were landing, and that was disrupting Sean's timing and Sean's entries. And the other one that I think was probably disrupting the entries even a little more was that front quad push kick.
Yeah.
Every time Sean's a very linear fighter.
Yeah.
Sean marches forward. When he switches stances, he doesn't do it a whole lot, but he does it when he throws that push kick, and then he'll drop the foot that he threw in front, and then he'll switch stances.
Yeah.
It's almost like a march that he does.
Right.
And that push that Dricus was doing was disrupting that march entirely.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a kick that hurts you, right? A calf kick, if you land shin bone to calf really hard, that's a painful thing to endure.
For sure.
A push kick to the quad, this is a lot of meat here in the upper thigh, and you're talking about the bottom of your foot, which is softer than your shin bone. It's not a kick meant to really hurt and do damage, but it was tremendous at disrupting the timing of Sean. And then Dricus, Sean's a guy, once he gets into his rhythm, as you saw in the Adesanya fight, he's kind of unstoppable because his defense is really good. He slips well and he counters well.
Right.
And if he can get in on you, he can really start to flow.
Right.
But the flow was 100% disrupted by Dricus last night, and I think those 2 kicks were 2 of the main reasons that he was able to do so. And now having broken down Dricus's what he did really well, I think we need to look to Sean and kind of talk about some things that he didn't do well. And guys, one more thing before we finish up this video. I saw something that is just downright disturbing. Most of you that watch our content are not subscribed to the channel.
What's up with that?
So guys, if you like our content, if you're enjoying these combat sports videos, hit that subscribe button. We are on a mission to get to 10,000 subscribers, and we appreciate you sincerely.
Thank you.
Because what surprised me mostly was Sean is a really good defensive fighter, as you said, and he's very even though he fights out of that modified shell, he's very defensively sound, and he's very hard to hit, and he's good at picking up on tendencies. So I thought, even though I picked Dricus to win this fight, I thought Sean would be able to offer a little bit more in the offensive side of things because he's already had 25 minutes of a fight with Dricus to kind of pull from and decide, what am I going to do? What's going to be my game plan? What are his tendencies? How do I pick up on the reads? And then go from there. But this was a new and improved Dricus. But I think Sean he couldn't get out of first gear last night.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, it's one thing that stuck out to me. And before I start to talk about what Sean wasn't doing well, I think there was a mental aspect to it that stuck out to me. So everybody was anticipating, especially after Sean came out and said, let's stand and fight. Let's not take each other down. Let's fight like men. And he said, Dricus came out and said, lions don't make deals with men, or whatever it was. Pretty cool line. But then he did oblige. He wasn't looking for takedowns. But I will tell you this, the Dricus, the mentality of Dricus is really, really bulletproof, because what I saw out of him was about round 3 or round 4. I can't remember when the first takedown was shot, but as soon as Sean landed his most successful combination of the fight to that point, Dricus shot in, and he landed his takedown. And any bit of momentum Dricus had won 2.5 minutes of that round. Sean had a good 30 seconds, and then Dricus took him down. Yeah. So maybe if that 30 seconds would have stole the round for Sean, he canceled any bit of that out by taking him to the ground. And he didn't hold him there for too long, but he did take him down to the ground. And I think that was a major, major turning point for the fight. I think that Sean Strickland, if he would have been able to defend that takedown or continue striking a little bit more, would have been able to build on his own confidence. But the fact that as soon as he did start to let off some offense a little bit more than he was doing in the earlier parts of the fight, he got taken down. I think it zapped all of his confidence. And then, if you're asking me, it looked like he was mentally checked out. Eric Nixick could clearly see that in the corner. He was trying to light fire, but also giving technical advice, which I think is the right thing for Sean Strickland. He's going to listen to you, but I could tell he was irritated. He was irritated with himself and kind of taking it out on just the moment. Yeah. So Eric Nixick did what he could do, to deal with a fighter like that in a major moment. But I think that Sean Strickland lost the confidence after that takedown, and it was only a matter of time before Dricus realized that the confidence was gone off of that one combination, and then he was back to fighting a Sean like in the first and second rounds, who was not very offensive, kind of standing right in front of you, not putting a whole lot out there for you to worry about, and just trying to defend your shots. But when you have Dricus coming in with all these weird shots, those ones that seemed like easy money for Sean to defend wound up touching him, wound up doing damage. And then the nose break was really what changed everything. We've never seen Sean Strickland, who's like a stoic monster, take a step back, go to fix his broken nose, and step back in the fight. Like, that was something that only a real warrior, a true champion would do. And even though we don't see like the human side of these fighters sometimes in the fights, that was a human side. I think people love that. The Australian fans, they love Sean Strickland, and even though he didn't get his hand raised, I feel like he went out there and gave them the show that they wanted to see. And look, I think he's got some things that he can go to the drawing board and fix. I believe he could still be a major problem for a lot of the guys at the top of the 185 division, but he has to change some things. His ability to adapt mid-fight has got to get better. He's got to improve at understanding, okay, this range isn't working and further out isn't working either. I need to get inside. And Sean is known for great boxing, but he's known for boxing at a distance, staying long, using that jab, using the long punches, and then maybe winging some long hooks around. I don't really ever see him slipping punches, rolling, staying on the inside. Think about Ilia Topuria, and his brother looked fantastic, by the way. But think about that style. If we saw Sean Strickland kind of get inside and use some of that really good head movement and defense, but not on the way back, but more on the way inside, I think we could see him really put some powerful shots and maybe some fight-ending strikes on his opponents. But again, you've got to address those things. Dricus Du Plessis is probably the hardest puzzle to solve at 185 right now, and Sean didn't pass that test. But I think he can figure out and adapt to some of these other contenders that he's going to have to fight in the near future. But yeah, it just wasn't his night. I think maybe the staph infection, if he tried to fix that with antibiotics, probably did zap his energy. He didn't look like the Sean Strickland that we know and love. But even in defeat, I'm still a major Sean Strickland fan. He looked good out there, and Dricus was just a better man.
Well said. And guys, we saw Dricus Du Plessis call out Alex Pereira, but we all know that DDP versus Khamzat Chimaev is the next fight to make.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to hear our initial thoughts on that fight, click right here.